All right, Thirsty Thursday, we are inside you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I'm Emerson Latzia, reminding you once again, the Earth is billions and billions of years old, and we're lucky to be living on it at the same time as Shohei Ohtani. You just saw some of the ridiculous numbers that he put up last night, but what else is coming up in this show? That's a fantastic question. Thank you. The fantasy impact of Baker Mayfield's trade to the Panthers. Heck, what's that mean now for the Browns? Jacoby Brissett, how far can he lead Cleveland next season? And let's just say Wimbledon bets. That sounds good. I'll have that. But let's go back to Shohei Ohtani real quick, because Sho-Time is what it's all about. His dominance has almost become normal, and yet he often finds a new way to make history. Take last night, for example. Since the RBI became an official stat more than a century ago, he's the first player to strike out 10 batters, drive in 2 runs, and steal a base in the same game. You may have seen that stat about 40 billion times on Twitter. DraftKings contributors, Steve Buchanan, Gary and Thor, Nick Fryer, they are here to talk best bets for tonight. Before we do that, Steve, is Ohtani the clear American League MVP right now? What do you think?
According to the odds, that is not true. Aaron Judge is still the leader in MVP, but this is a great time to take the rest of the field. When Aaron Judge is one of the bigger favorites on the board, you're getting a much more favorable number for the rest of the field there. So taking Ohtani at this point, or taking some of the other players here, I think it's a way to go. Kind of giving that crown to Judge when we're not even at the All-Star break yet, I don't think is something that we want to do just yet. So take a number at some of these other guys here, especially like Ohtani with the way he's been playing lately.
Hey, Nick, who's more fun to watch right now than Shohei Ohtani? Anybody?
I don't think that you can say anybody else is more fun to watch. I mean, I do love watching Aaron Judge go to work, and Yordan Alvarez is another guy, too, who just lights it up. But nobody can do what Shohei Ohtani does. And I think what Steve makes a good point, too, which kind of hurts for me to say. But when you look at what happened with Trout a few years back, right, where he was always considered he's the best player in the league, so we got to give him MVP every single year. No one can do what Shohei Ohtani does. So it kind of automatic, and when he does it at an elite level of both things, it kind of makes him like, you have some of those voters who are going to vote for him every single year as long as he does what he normally does. So something to consider when you're trying to look at these MVP futures.
I mean, Gary, could you still make an argument that this dude is underappreciated still?
I don't know if he's underappreciated. I think considering just the laughingstock that is the Los Angeles Angels franchise, we give him enough notoriety, or he breaks out for enough notoriety. It's just such an interesting case study, though. I mean, we talk about this in every single sport when discussing futures. Like, there's voter fatigue. And Shohei Ohtani is going to be like the greatest example of voter fatigue ever.
Yeah.
Because he should win the MVP every year. He can do something like this. The man is third in AL Cy Young voting and has an OPS hovering around 900. How is that not the MVP? I mean, if this guy gets a single Cy Young award vote, it's ludicrous that he doesn't win Most Valuable Player if he's also going to continue to be one of the best 5 hitters in the American League. So I don't know. I mean, you said that we're all lucky to be living at the same time as Shohei Ohtani. I bet guys like, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. last year and Aaron Judge this year would probably disagree.
All right, well, the team he's on still has a worse record than the Orioles, and those two teams actually will clash in Baltimore tonight. We also get the Braves and the Cardinals wrapping up their series. So what's a bet you like in this game, Steve?
Yeah, so I look at the total on this one here. It's at 9.5. It feels awfully high right now, especially with this bit of an offensive skid that the Cardinals have been on lately. They've scored 3 runs or less in 3 of their last 5 games. They've really been struggling at the plate, and now they're going up against Spencer Strider. Like, if they had a bet, will Spencer Strider have the best mustache on tonight's slate? Give me minus 10,000 on that. He would absolutely win that bet. But that's not something we can take. So give me under 9.5 runs in this game. I know Matthew Liberatore has been having a lot of issues since he's come up to the majors. He's facing one of the best offenses in the league in the Braves. But at this point, with the way the Cardinals look at the plate, I don't know if they can make up the difference. And going up against Strider, who's been phenomenal, had a couple bumps in the road, had that really bad start against the Giants a couple starts ago. But other than that, I mean, the slate has been, very clean for him when he takes the mound. So I look at 9.5 runs. That just feels like a little bit too much for me. So give me under 9.5 runs in this game at minus 120.
Okay, it looks like that's 9 runs now in the DK Sportsbook, Steve. So,
they knew I was going to say it.
Yep. Nick, what's a bet you like between the Braves and the Cardinals?
Steve brings up a good point about the Cardinals and how they've been quiet in this series. But you know who else has been quiet for the Braves as much as they've done well is Ronald Acuna. He's only, 2 for 12 so far in this series. No extra base hits at all. But now this is the first time he's getting a shot at a left-handed pitcher. And Liberatore, despite all the stuff that Steve was saying, 421 WOBA against right-handed hitters this season. When you look at Acuna, most of his damage has come against left-handed pitching. 250 ISO, 405 WOBA. I know he hasn't seen a whole lot of lefties of late, so he hasn't had much chance to do damage. But tonight is a good night for him to do it, where he's kind of been a little cold to start this series. So over 1.5 total bases for Acuna tonight.
Gary, and what catches your eye here?
Well, the one I had written down was Ronald Acuna Jr. over 1.5 total bases at -130. Leads the team in expected WOBA against left-handed pitchers. As these guys have both mentioned, Matthew Liberatore has really struggled in his 5 starts at the major league level, giving up a .629 slugging percentage to opposing right-handed bats. You could go with Austin Riley, too, who's got a WRC plus of 194 against left-handed pitchers so far this season, but that's bumped up to -145 on the DraftKings Sportsbook over 1.5 total bases. So they know that Liberatore has struggled. Let's just say that. I would even maybe take a look at the Braves team total, although that's pumped up to 5.5, although it's +100. So I might try my luck with some of these individual player props before I went there.
All right, guys. Then there's the Red Sox, who still haven't won a series against an AL East opponent this season. And now the Yankees come to town for not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 games. Hook me up with a bet you like between these two tonight, Nick.
Yeah, so Josh Winkowski is taking the mound tonight, and I know he's had some decent starts for the Red Sox, but if you look at some of the teams that he's faced, they have not been as tough as the Yankees. In 4 of his 5 major league starts, he's given up at least 6 hits. The total for his hits allowed prop tonight is that set at 5.5, so I like the over in that one going up against a far superior lineup. And the other thing is, too, the Red Sox are going to need him to go deep into this game. Not talking like 7 innings, but pretty much what he's been doing, 5, 6 innings by today's standards. That's deep enough because the bullpen worked quite a bit against Tampa Bay. You got Walker, who's supposed to go on Friday night, but there are still questions about that, too. So that could turn into a bullpen game, even if he does start. And obviously, the Yankees are coming off a seismic showing against the Pirates. And since mid-June, they were top 10 in ISO and WOBA against right-handed pitching, too. So this is going to be a tough one for Winkowski.
Gary, what are you going to target here?
So first I was thinking just something simple, Yankees run line. As you mentioned, the Red Sox 6-14 their last 20 games against American League East opponents. But I think I'm actually going to go with no run in the first. It's just -120. You look at Garrett Cole, he's allowed 1 earned run or fewer in 5 of his last 7 starts. Winkowski, as Nick mentioned, hasn't exactly gone through a murderer's row of teams, a lot of Oakland, a lot of Detroit in his game log. But he does have a 1.74 ERA the first time through the order, and the Yankees have not seen this guy pitch, so he might have the early advantage. I also like this bet a lot more if Rafael Devers is once again out of the lineup. Alex Cora loves leaving his guys in their slots, so if Rafael Devers is not playing in this game, there's a good chance it's going to be like Jarren Duran and then Christian Vasquez hitting second. Like, you're not going to have to face the Bogarts and the JD Martinez of the world all stacked together in the first inning if you're Garrett Cole.
I mean, Steve, Winkowski's been very good over his past 4 starts, but he has yet to face anything like New York.
Right. I mean, and just look at the Pirates last night, 16-0. Even the commentary team had enough by the end of that game. Wonderful call on Giancarlo Stanton's home run. If you have not listened to that yet, please do so. I'm going to go a little outside here. I'm going to take the Red Sox on the run line at +1.5. This has actually been a spot that they have done quite well in on the run line as underdogs. They're 21-11 on the run line as underdogs this season. That's a pretty good mark. That's one of the best in the leagues. 45-37 overall on the run line. That's the 6th best mark in the league. Now, to be fair, the Yankees are also strong on the run line as favorites, which I think they've been favorites almost every game this season. They're 38-39. And while that's under 500, so is the vast majority of the league. So even though they're under 500, they're still one of the top teams on the run line. But I think this is actually a decent spot to take them at +1.5. It's only -115. I think this is a spot that you can take them there. They've obviously given Garrett Cole issues in the past. Garrett Cole has been almost untouchable really since the month of June began. So this is not going to be an easy start by any means, but I think that +1.5, you're getting some decent value there for a Red Sox team that has done very, very well in this spot. So give me them on the run line tonight.
All right, well, speaking of run line, Gary, and which run line or money line bet do you like on the main slate tonight?
Well, we've got just a fantastic pitching matchup in the desert tonight. We've got Austin Gomber going up against Dallas Keuchel. It's the game everyone's going to want to watch. But it's crazy to say one of these teams has a distinct advantage, but I really do think the Rockies have the clear advantage in this game. First and foremost, they are not the team starting Dallas Keuchel, so congratulations to them. Austin Gabber, though, really is probably due for some positive regression. His strand rate is under 60%. That's just not going to keep going in that direction. He's got a 6.42 ERA away from Coors, despite the fact he's got a 3.94 FIP on the road. He's been so much better in every statistical category aside from just runs allowed on the road. And I think he's going to have a pretty good start tonight against the Diamondbacks, because the other giant differentiating factor in this game is that Colorado crushes left-handed pitchers. They are first in average, OPS, and WOBA against southpaws this season. The Diamondbacks do not. They have a ton of left-handed bats in that lineup, and they have an 85 WRC plus within the split. That is the fourth lowest mark in all of baseball. Dallas Keuchel still stinks. 10 earned runs in his first 9 1/3 as a member of the Diamondbacks. Torey Lovello even came out a couple days ago and said, I don't know if he's going to make his next start. If I could have a bet on the DraftKings Sportsbook that this is the last start this season Dallas Keuchel makes, I would take it. I think this is it for him in 2022 and maybe even his career.
All right, Steve, you looking at anyone with plus money there on the money line?
Nope. But I will give you something on the run line. I will give you the White Sox going up against the Tigers on the run line there at -1.5. After Dylan Cease gave up 7 runs to the Boston Red Sox back on May 24th, he has just given up 2 total runs in 7 starts since, both of them coming on solo home runs, both of them coming in his last 2 starts against the Giants and the Orioles. He has been literally untouchable since that start. One of those starts did come against this Tigers team where he pitched 5 shutout innings, struck out 8, did give up 7 hits, which is the most hits that he's given up since that Boston start, but he has been able to strand all those base runners in all those type of situations. So seeing that you can get the White Sox to win this game by 1.5 at -120. I have no issues with that at all. I think this White Sox team finally starting to come alive at the plate too as well. They've been hitting extremely well, really backed up by Luis Robert, who's had a really nice run over the past week or so. So give me the White Sox -1.5 against those Tigers tonight.
Nick, any run line or money line bets you like?
I did look at both of these 2 games and did like Steve's pick and Garen's pick. The other one, though, that I really like a lot, too, is Dodgers, -1.5 going up against the Cubs. Tony Gonsolin's on the mound. They're 12-3 when he's on the mound. They've covered in 11 of those 12 wins. The one time they didn't cover was a home game, but they also haven't lost when Gonsolin's been on the mound at home. They're crushing right-handed pitching, and they're facing Mark Leiter, who really shouldn't be in the starting rotation right now. He just joined the starting rotation because Alec Mills got hurt last time. He came in the first inning as a result, did pretty well against the Red Sox, so he's back out there again. So I don't have a ton of faith in him going up against the Dodgers and Gonsolin.
All right, let's go slate approved pick, gentlemen. Favorite bet on the board. What you got, Steve?
You know, kind of going off what Gary was talking about with Dallas Keuchel, give me under 14.5 outs recorded for him going at +125. So we need him to be out of this game before he goes through 5 innings. That seems extremely viable. He went 5 innings the last time he went against the Rockies, but that was after giving up 7 runs. I think the Diamondbacks, like what Gary was mentioned, they've already had it with this guy after 1 start. He's out of there early tonight. They get into that bullpen. Give me under 14.5 outs recorded for Dallas Keuchel.
All right, Nick, slate approved. Let's go.
Yeah, Kyle Schwarber over 1.5 total bases at -105 going up against the Nationals, despite going up against Joan Adon. And of course, when we talk about streaky hitters, Kyle Schwarber has been on fire. You look at Adon in his 13 starts this season, he's given up 13 extra base hits to left-handed hitters. Schwarber over his last 19 games against right-handed pitching, 8 home runs, 2 doubles, 42.9% hard contact rate, and only a 28.6% ground ball rate.
I mean, Schwarber going Tater Town twice yesterday. Still a loss for the team. Okay, Gary, and hook us up. Bring us home.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a plus money strikeout prop here. Logan Webb over 5.5 strikeouts at +115. Started the season really slow from a strikeout perspective, but since the beginning of May, Logan Webb's been the exact same guy he was last season. He's got a 9.3 K per 9 and a 26% strikeout rate across his last 9 starts. He has cleared this number, 5.5, in 7 of his last 9 outings. So I think plus money there is a really, really nice bet.
All right, dudes, good stuff. Appreciate the help. We're going to poke over to the NFL next. The impact Baker had on Carolina's odds after that trade on the DK Sportsbook, plus NFC West division win totals. All right, there's a new quarterback in Carolina. The Panthers acquiring Baker Mayfield in a trade with the Browns in exchange for a conditional 5th-round pick. Cleveland can turn that thing into a 4th-rounder, depending on Mayfield's playing time. Let's bring in DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich, Reed T. Fowler, and Pierce Dietrich here. Jeff, we talked about this yesterday, last night on the slate, you, me, and Reed T. Fowler, but how do you see him fitting in here with the Panthers offense?
I mean, I think Baker Mayfield is probably not a bad fit for what the Panthers want to do, which is just give Christian McCaffrey the ball as much as humanly possible and just, grind out some close games. I mean, I think that's what Baker Mayfield has proven that he's pretty good at doing. He was really good at working with Jarvis Landry out in Cleveland. Where he has trouble is just with the big plays and really just supporting big wide receiver ones. So for me, I think it's probably a small upgrade for them over Sam Darnold, who obviously was, after a really hot start where he ran for like 6 touchdowns in 3 games, really regressed badly in 2021 for the rest of the season. But as far as like fantasy upside and like that, McCaffrey, small bump. The tertiary receivers like Robbie Anderson, small bump. DJ Moore, I have concerns about.
All right, Reed, talking fantasy here. Who benefits the most from Baker's arrival?
Oh yeah, Christian McCaffrey, and I think Sam Darnold if he can get out of Carolina, I think what we talked about yesterday and what Jeff just alluded to, you might see Christian McCaffrey get from a usage standpoint much higher than he already has, which is one of the best in the league. Because when you talk about Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, both had 13 interceptions last year. Both can't take care of the ball under pressure. And Baker Mayfield was the worst in terms of sack percentage when there was pressure on the quarterback. He was sacked 26% of the time when the defense brought pressure. That's number 1 in the NFL. And the offensive line of Carolina is still younger. They're potentially getting better, but they're not great. And so that's what you worry about with Baker Mayfield. It's not necessarily the throws. He's a better passer than Sam Darnold is. But from a pressure standpoint, I think this is a regression from Darnold. At least Darnold could run and get those touchdowns and be a little bit more mobile than what we've seen Baker do.
I mean, Pierce, do you think this could have any kind of like domino effect on the rest of the league?
I don't know if it'll have a domino effect, but the Panthers are going to be a lot more competitive this year, not necessarily because of Baker. It's really hard to review how well Darnold's been because he's never had an offensive line, and we saw Baker struggle without an offensive line. Obviously, the quarterback position is very dependent of the line play, but quietly the Panthers have gotten really good on the offensive line. Now, they may not be great, but they're definitely going to be improved from last season. They have Taylor Morton returning. They got a number 6 pick overall out of NC State as a tackle. They've got a center from the Ravens in Bradley Bozeman, who's a top center. They got Austin Corbett at guard from the champion Rams. So this is a lot better of an offensive line, and they're going to be a lot more competitive. They'll stick in games more. They'll score more fantasy points. I don't know if they have enough to be a real threat in NFC South. Probably not. But they could be a 500 team under Baker, and there will be weeks where they'll put up fantasy points.
Okay, yeah, they actually go from plus 1,200 to plus 1,000 there, Pierce, for the NFC South. Not a huge impact, but Baker's now out of Cleveland. We don't know how the NFL is going to end up punishing Deshaun Watson. Some reports say it could be an entire season. So right now it's Jacoby Brissett under center. What's Cleveland's ceiling with him at quarterback, Reed?
I mean, his best season, I believe, was with Indy, right, where he won 7 or 8 games, I want to say. I think when he started 14 or 12 or 14, just around there. But, this is going to be tough sledding if it's Jacoby Brissett, right? And we talked about Christian McCaffrey. I think if you're, want to lead Cleveland to a winning record, you make Nick Chubb the quarterback, you make him the wide receiver, and you make him the running back. Just give Nick Chubb everything, because we know that when he gets the ball and his usage rate, when they don't split with Kareem Hunt, it's fantastic, right? Nick Chubb is that guy. And if you look at Marlon Mack in 2019, when Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback, he had a few 20-point games in DK scoring. So when you talk about it from a fantasy standpoint as well, Nick Chubb is way better than Marlon Mack. That's where you want to go. I think it might be tough to rely on Jacoby Brissett.
And Jeff, like Brissett, do you think he would be better than that abysmal season put forth by Mayfield last year?
I don't know, actually. I think I'd take injured Baker Mayfield over a full season of Jacoby Brissett. Look, this is a very limited quarterback. I mean, like Jacoby Brissett is nice. He's going to go out there. The nice thing is he's a little bit mobile. He's a big dude, but like, I think I don't think the market has quite discounted the Browns enough here. I mean, the Browns are still sitting at plus 275 to win the AFC North with Jacoby Brissett, like the favorite to start all the games, because Deshaun Watson right now is a very good chance he's not even going to play. I don't get that number. Like they should be like plus 500. They should be like plus 800. Jacoby Brissett, I mean, he had 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in 5 starts and like a bunch of other like spot appearances last year. This is just not a high-end quarterback. It's just not a quarterback who's good at throwing the ball. And we're in a league in the NFL, which is like pass happy right now. So I get that the Browns are built around running the ball and they want to just give the ball to Hunt and Chubb like a million times. But like at some point in the NFL, in the modern day game, you have to throw the ball pretty much every week. And the Browns are just going to suck at doing that with Jacoby Brissett. So, and I think from fantasy perspective, this is really going to draw down. Like, I'm just not really big on Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb, but like Jacoby Brissett's going to be taking some goal line carries now. They're not going to have as many red zone opportunities. Who knows what Amari Cooper's going to do next year? He could just disappear for 14 games. We could forget he's even in the NFL. That's generally what he does anyways. So I think this really hurts the Browns. I think you look at that division, the Bengals at plus 190, still at plus 190. Why? This team is going to be so much better with the offensive line, another year at Chase and Burrow. I think there's still discounts in the AFC North, and I don't think the Browns are at a big enough number at all yet.
So, Jeff, maybe we just take Nick Chubb at plus 1,000 to have the most rushing yards next year.
I mean, he may get the most carries in the NFL. I could definitely see that.
All right, Pierce, Ravens are plus 160 to win the division. Jeff just mentioned the Bengals plus 190. The Browns then at plus 275. How far could Brissett take the Browns this upcoming season?
He's not going to take them anywhere. Why didn't they at least ask for Sam Darnold in return? I don't get that. I wouldn't be surprised by the time this season starts, they end up with one of these USFL jokers as their starting quarterback. There's no way you're leaning on Brissett. Look, the Dolphins gave him a chance last season. They saw what he was, and they got him out of town, and they realized we've got to upgrade at our backup quarterback position with Tua, being an injury liability. They didn't believe in Brissett. They sent him, shopping. They are packing. They didn't want him to start. So the Browns are going to start this guy. Now, the one thing that people probably need to know for DFS is if we are going to get a season full of Brissett, he likes to throw to his tight ends a lot. So if you're playing season long or best ball, I would load up on Njoku right now, because that is basically what he did in Indianapolis. He did that in a small portion in Miami. So tight ends at the Browns, and we know the Browns like to run double tight end sets. So both of them are going to be in play. As far as Nick Chubb goes, if I'm him, I'm going down to Mexico for a year and just relaxing. I'm not going to wear my legs up. This season's lost. What are they doing? And then the future's lost too, because they gave up the draft picks. So this franchise, good luck, Cleveland.
Yeah, they just paid a fortune to Njoku as well. They paid him a ton of money, and I don't think he had like more than 3 touchdowns in a single season.
He wasn't healthy either.
Yeah,
and he asked for a trade. Ask for a trade, and you get paid in Cleveland.
There's more money. Well, what is Carolina doing? What is Cleveland doing? Perpetually, that's what we always ask ourselves. It's terrible.
All right, guys. Yesterday, we broke down the AFC West division win total. So let's stay out in that direction, that region. Let's talk NFC West division total, starting with the defending champs here. So the Rams line is at 4 wins in the division. Over or under, Pierce?
I got to go over, and I know I've belabored the point about the Rams had a soft schedule at the end of last season. And I am slightly concerned about the offensive line. As I mentioned, Corbett left. We had a major retirement in Andrew Whitworth. But the reality is, this is just year 2 with Matthew Stafford. In year 1, they won the Super Bowl. You know that offense is just going to get better. There's going to be more chemistry between the coaching staff, the quarterback, the receivers. The offensive line will improve at least a little bit. And then the running backs couldn't get any worse. You got almost absolutely nothing out of the running game. If you just get an average performance, it's scary. This could be a really dynamic offense. We already know the defense is pretty good. But again, that was year 1. They won the Super Bowl. They're probably going to be better in the second year under Stafford.
All right, well, they go 5-1. I mean, you're getting plus 120 odds on that right now, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, with the odds where they are right now, I mean, at 4, I want to go under, but unfortunately, you got to take minus 150 to go under 4. This is just a spot where I'm going to lay off. I actually think the Rams are ripe for a little bit of regression. And I think that Matthew Stafford, injury problems could definitely creep up here in year two, especially after the longer season with the Super Bowl. But the problem with going under is this division is not what it was like a year or two ago. Like I have problems with the Cardinals that I've spoken about. So I can't really rank them in front of the Rams. And then there's the Seahawks are going to be in the division as well with Drew Lock and Geno Smith. Somehow a worse quarterback situation maybe than Cleveland. I don't know. But, the thing is, you can't really go under here because you've got two such weak teams. So this is really just a layoff spot for me. The Rams aren't really a team I necessarily want to go, full gusto on because I do think there's going to be some Super Bowl regression. They have lost some space in the offensive line there. And I think that really does bring up the injury concern with Matthew Stafford. I know he's been really, really durable over the last few years, but if there's ever a spot where, maybe he just takes a few games off, it's after the big Super Bowl year. So I think the Rams ultimately probably going to sneak into the playoffs again because, like Pierce said, it's still a very good team and they're in a weaker division now. But this is just not a total that I really want to hit at 4. If it was 3.5, yeah, we'd look at the over, but not at 4.
All right, Reed, do you feel the same way? You don't really want to touch it at 4?
No, I'm with Pierce. I think I like it there. And look, when you talk about this defense as well, Aaron Donald coming back, that's huge. Losing Von Miller was pretty big because if they get some injuries, they do not have depth at that position, right behind Floyd. But Bobby Wagner comes. You got Jalen Ramsey in the backfield, at cornerback playing that star position. So this defense is strong. They did lose some people on offense, but the X factor is Allen Robinson. OBJ, we have no idea. I have no idea. I tried to do a quick search on what OBJ is doing. I haven't heard anything from him, which is surprising. But Allen Robinson is the X factor. He hasn't had a good quarterback ever. We've always want A-Rob to get a good quarterback. Well, now it's up to you, Robinson. You have one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL right now. That's the X factor because OBJ could beat these defenders one-on-one. I don't know if that's Robinson's game. If he can, this offense now has a little bit different fold than it did last season with Cooper Kupp. So I'm siding with Pierce here. I like the number.
So then, Reed, would you like them also just to win the NFC West at plus 125?
I think that goes to another team that we're going to talk about in a little bit in San Francisco. So I'm going to lay off on them winning the division. All
right, let's go the Cardinals here. They went 4-2 last year, Reed T. Fowler, winning the first 4. They lost the last 2. Their total sits at 3.5 on the DK Sportsbook. Obviously, the DK Sportsbook expects Arizona to take a step back this season. And we know this, too. DeAndre Hopkins suspended for the first 6 games. Yep. But just 2 division contests during that span. So you want to go over or under?
I'm going under. Okay. J.J. Watt, questionable. They lose Chandler Jones to the Raiders. Jess Boyd, Chase Edmonds is no longer in that backfield. It's all James Conner, your boy. I think all of us believe that all 3 of us can feasibly believe that they can double up on Seattle, right? Like every team in this division is probably going to double up on Seattle. So can they split against San Francisco and the Rams? And I'm not sure, right? Again, we talk about offensive line. The Cardinals have one of the worst in this division, I believe, offensive lines, and their average age of the starting 5 is 30 years old. If these guys get injured, and most of them on their downturn, you're going to see Kyler Murray get injured again. Without D-Hop, without Murray, potentially, that worries me a lot. So I'm going to go under.
All right, Pierce, what direction you going?
We're going to go under. It's pretty amazing. Last season going in, this was the sexy team to pick, and really, there hasn't been that many changes, but D-Hop seems to have gotten old really fast. I know that people are down because he's going to be missing games, but he did not look like the same player last year. Yeah, he was battling injuries, but you think those injuries are just going to disappear this season? Is it really just losing Chase Edmonds has made us hate the Cardinals that much? I think the real reason is the defense has gotten old. The defense at times punched above its weight. And then also last season, several times they were very disappointing. You just really can't trust the defense. And then you also really can't trust the offense. We're all screaming, let Kyler Murray play, let him be dynamic, let him be mobile. And we see glimpses of that. And we think, oh, wow, this is going to be the team to beat. And then they just shut it down. Then he gets injured. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm not going to fall for this again. This is just not a real offense until they completely unleash Kyler Murray. And Hopkins proves that he is his former self.
All right, well, Jeff, the Cardinals are known for their hot starts and rough finishes, and it's more of a back-heavy conference or division schedule.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, I want nothing to do with anything over on the Cardinals this year. You name me one spot where the Cardinals, improve as a team. I think that Pierce alluded to it. The defense really just outperformed last year. And now they lost Chandler Jones. So they've lost their pass rush. I don't see the back end getting any better, like in terms of the secondary. This is just not a defense I'm interested in at all. I don't really see playmakers there necessarily. I don't really see a team that's going to be dominating. So then you turn to the offense. Well, there's no DeAndre Hopkins, and you're replacing him with Marquise Brown, one of the most inconsistent up and down, perhaps diva wide receivers in the league thus far. Oh, by the way, Kyler Murray's been complaining all offseason about contract and just not liking the team and stuff. That's great. So now we're expecting him to go put his body on the line and be like the driving force of this offense again, like he was through like 6 games last year. No, I think that this team is just smoke and mirrors. And I think Cliff Kingsbury kind of showed his true colors towards the end of the year. And that's like, he wants to give James Conner the ball like 30 times a game.
Yeah, baby.
I'm sorry. Like maybe that worked a little bit, but that is not going to work over a full season. I think this Cardinals team is going to be really disappointing in 2022. I think that they're going to have synchro issues on offense as well with some new faces in and no DeAndre Hopkins. So yeah, the number isn't great, but I'm not taking the over on the Cardinals. Give me the under in division wins as well.
Jeff,
I think that Seattle will give a team like Arizona trouble because I don't think this defense is going to be able to stop the run very well either. So I think this is a team that realistically Seattle can at least split with just in terms of talking about the division too.
Well, let's not forget Christian Kirk, the star in Jacksonville, no longer there as well.
Damn right. That's why Jacksonville gave him all the money in the world. Anyhow, nice clean sweep there on the under for the Cardinals. But Reed, it sounds like you got some high expectations for the 49ers and went 2-4 in the division last year. So they lost twice to the Seahawks, twice to the Cardinals, but beat the Rams both times last year. Over or under, Fowler, 3.5 for the Niners this year. Are you going to shock the world and go over?
Yeah, I like over. Give me that plus money at plus 100 even money. I like the way the season starts as well. Week 2 and week 4. Week 2 against Seattle, week 4 against the Rams. Both are at home, so they could feasibly get out to a hot start in the division and go 2-0 if they can beat out the Rams, which, they were competitive against them. I think they beat them twice last year, both times. The 49ers did the Rams. So that's what you really like. The solid offensive line, interior offensive line is a little weak. Tomlinson, I believe, is gone. So that worries me a little bit. But the X factor is Trey Lance. And we know that type of quarterback is extremely difficult to defend. That's a big issue. Or excuse me, a big X factor in how this team goes. But we've seen the 49ers and look, what if Jimmy Garoppolo's in Cleveland, right, Pierce? That could be feasible as well. If Jacoby Brissett's not working, Garoppolo might get a bag again in Cleveland and be there. So I do like the 49ers quite a bit. I think that they make a step forward. They were competitive with a team that was severely injured the last couple of years, so I like them a lot.
All right, Pierce, are your expectations as high for the 49ers as Reed?
They are not. I will go with the under. We're going to go with the new offensive system here now that they lost McDaniel. Although it'll probably be kind of similar with Shanahan in control, but still, it's a new system. You've got a brand new quarterback in Trey Lance. And the worst thing you could possibly do is put him behind an unproven young offensive line. And that's exactly what they're going to do. They lost Tom Compton on the line. As Reed mentioned, they lost Lincoln Tomlinson on the offensive line. And that was really a strength of this team. Garoppolo didn't really have a great season, but imagine what Garoppolo would have looked like without a decent offensive line. Imagine what Eli Mitchell would do without a good offensive line. We're going to see it. Defense is good. Defense is still a top 10 defense. They added to their pass rush, and that's going to keep them in games. That'll make them competitive in this division. But I have real concerns with that offense. The wide receivers, I don't still completely believe in them, but really that line, I think that's going to hurt a lot.
Yeah, Jeff, which side do you fall on here? Over under 3.5 division wins for the Niners?
I'm definitely on the overside with the 49ers. You know what? People don't talk about the offensive line that much with San Francisco. It's because, honestly, it doesn't matter that much. Kyle Shanahan, he just schemes runs. He's just good at scheming offensive line and the zone run, and that's what he's going to do again. And the 49ers are going to be one of the best rushing teams, and they're going to have Trey Lance out there. And they're going to be absolutely impossible to stop. I think this team is going to get 14 wins. I think the 49ers, this is a year of Shanahan. Wow. I think this team is absolutely set up. You've got Deebo Samuel likely back in the fold, being quiet again. Brandon Ayuk, certainly someone who could step up, even if Samuel is in big trouble or doesn't come back or whatever. I don't even really care what happens with Deebo Samuel. This team also added on defense Javarius Ward. I think a really nice pickup to solidify one of their weak spots. I think Trey Lance is going to really, really surprise people. I think he's going to be a great fit in this offense. Yeah, give me the over in division wins. And like I said, I think San Francisco wins this division quite easily. I think they're the best team. I think they're finally going to get some injury luck here, hopefully. I like the 49ers this year. Give me 14 wins. 14.
I do
That's gonna have a
declare.
big,
Is that
big year.
14-3? Are you gonna throw a tie in there? Maybe a little 14-2-1.
No, tie
You're
here.
gonna-
What is this?
What is
Ken
that?
Pierce?
Dude, relax.
What is
Stop
this?
stop yelling at me. 49ers plus 160 to win the NFC West. Hold on a second. We have one more team to talk about. Oddly enough, the Seahawks were the talk of the tennis world and the NFL world over the weekend, ahead of the Mayfield news, because first someone was tweeting at the U.S. Open, hey, this is not a sport, and the U.S. Open clapped smack at him on Twitter. Not a sport, says the person about to watch 17 games of Drew Lock at quarterback. Drew Lock says, happy 4th to all, but especially to the intern at the U.S. Open here. Okay, so last we'll hear about the Seahawks. Is this the last we are going to hear about the Seahawks until the number 1 pick in April? Reed, the over-under here is 2 division wins.
Oh man, this is the last we're going to hear about them? No, because it's the Seahawks. And and I'm sure Jeff can appreciate this as well, as golf aficionados and the whole this sport is not a sport. I absolutely love the US Open Twitter feed coming out and clapping back at anybody who doesn't think tennis. Anybody who's tried to play tennis before knows it's one of the hardest sports in terms of getting it in that little box, getting it in if you're playing singles, and sprinting back and forth. And hand-eye coordination, you need it to play tennis. So if you don't think that's a sport, then shame on you. But yeah, this is not the last time we're going to hear about the Seahawks. Pete Carroll basically owns and general manages that entire organization. He needs to be out. So we're going to hear that quite a bit this year about Pete Carroll's future.
Yeah, I mean, life without Russ is going to be pretty tough, isn't it, Pierce?
No, it's not. Although people in the comments section seem to disagree with my Russ can't cook anymore. But every comment was, it was his offensive line. His offensive line. Don't blame Russ. He can't
read the
cook.
comments?
Don't block for him. What do you want me to do? He wasn't cooking. People will make all the excuses in the world. But Seattle has improved their offensive line, kind of. They spent, first-round draft pick, got Charles Crossen, a third-round pick at the front end to improve their offensive line. I don't think that's going to be enough. Carroll is excited about the defense, says that, they've built the defense around their personnel, and they're going to be very aggressive this season, and so they think that's going to be a strength. We know they've got receivers, they've got solid running backs, but they don't have a quarterback, and they have big questions at offensive line, so I can't really believe in them, but it is Pete Carroll. When it's all said and done, he'll probably at least get 7 wins because that's what he does.
Okay, Jeff, any chance you want to go over 2 wins here? You got Geno Smith breathing down Drew Lock's neck, too.
No, I mean, look, I am going to go over 2 wins.
What?
I mean, look, it's 2 wins. Like, 2 wins, we get a push here. Like, that's all we need. I mean, there's a bunch of games. I like San Francisco, but I mentioned the Rams. I mean, they're coming off the Super Bowl hangover. Easily, we get maybe we miss Matthew Stafford or we get a late in the season game. I'm not big on Arizona at all. I absolutely think Seattle could split the series there. So then we're just looking to pick up 1 more win here. Yeah, we can do that. So I think Pierce is right. This team outside of quarterback, it's not terrible. Like, they still have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett there to make some plays. I do like the running back that they drafted in Kenneth Walker, even though they shouldn't be spending more draft capital on the running back position. He's a dynamic playmaker. So I think there's enough here to pick up at least 2 wins. And you know what? If they get to 2 wins early, maybe you just pick up that 3rd late in the year and maybe some fluke situation. So I'm not taking the under on Seattle at 2 wins. At 2 wins, we're going over. But, this team is definitely going to be capped out at like 7 or 8 wins.
Have fun watching Rashad Penny run 400 times a game.
Yeah.
But they could probably beat the Cardinals doing that. That's my point, right?
Sure,
So
I get.
it's
Connor,
gonna,
40 carries.
They're going to be
Penny,
ugly to watch.
41 carries.
Wasn't that-
3-0.
Didn't
Yeah.
Penny had like those crazy good games, like the last handful of games, right? He ran for like
He pulls
200
you
yards.
back in until you draft him in like the 4th round, and then he goes absolutely nil.
No, we
Well,
all
he's
know
gonna
James
get hurt,
Conner.
like the first 6 snaps of the year is what's going to
And
happen.
Chris Carson is like, he's still out. Like,
All right.
he's got no foreseeable future.
We
So,
got to go.
We gotta go.
Producer Drew's telling me to wrap and get you guys to stop talking, so I appreciate it. We'll go back to the diamond and talk some MLB DFS plays right after this. All right, top 5 scores on the DraftKings slate from Wednesday night. We talked a boatload about Shohei Ohtani earlier and another historic performance for him, but then also the guy right underneath him, Aaron Judge, reaching a home run milestone marker on Wednesday, and he did it in grand fashion with an 8th inning grand slam that he torched out of the ballpark, part of a 16-0 win for the Yankees over the Pirates. Let's dive into who could potentially be on this graphic tomorrow's show. Let's do some price check here with DraftKings contributor Matt Meiselman and RotoWire's Paul Bruno. Let's get some DFS plays, the best ones in your opinion, in the following price ranges. So favorite pitcher north of $8,000 tonight, Matty.
I'm going to go with Joe Musgrove at 9,700. There are a lot of good pitchers in good matchups, actually. Dylan Cease, I think. I think it makes sense that most people will look to him first. But then you have guys like Spencer Strider and Garrett Cole, who's not in as great of a matchup, but Cole is just really good no matter who he's facing. Tony Gonsolin is facing the Cubs. And I just think that less people are going to play Musgrove than some of these other guys. Musgrove has had 2 not so great starts in a row, but they were games against the Dodgers and the Phillies. So I still think this is a really good pitcher. He's just had a couple tough matchups. He gets an easier one tonight against a Giants offense that hasn't been very good, is also quite injured right now. So I really like the spot for Musgrove. I think as a contrarian pivot off some of these other guys, he really makes a lot of sense.
All right, Paul, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dudes to choose from.
Yeah, there's a bunch here. Garrett Cole, Dylan Cease, Justin Verlander, they're going to be all hugely owned. But Matt already mentioned the guy that I'm going for, and that's Tony Gonsolin. 10-0 on the season. Comes into this game on the heels of 11 straight starts where he's allowed 2 earned runs or less in each appearance. I haven't seen that kind of a streak for any pitcher in a long while, I don't think. And he's gone at least 5 innings in each of those starts. Don't overthink it and stay in the chalky part of the starting pitcher board tonight for sure. The ownership won't be as high as you think on Gonsolin because of the quality of the other options, but nowhere is the win probability as high, in my opinion.
All right, Paul, then when I ask you best infielder is going to cost you at least $4,000 and more, you're going to tell me who?
I'm going to give you a couple of names here, too. Austin Riley, the third baseman for Atlanta, has been hotter than any other batter that I can find. With 6 multi-hit games in his last 7 starts, he'll cost $5,200 and gets the added platoon advantage tonight against Cards' inconsistent hurler Matthew Liberatore, who's pitched to a 5.66 ERA and 1.79 WHIP in only 20 2/3 innings. If you want to go to a more chalky option, the Dodgers lineup is full of them, and I'm picking Trey Turner there, costing $5,600 against the visiting Cubs. He's been hitless in his last 2 starts. He's only gone hitless 3 in a row once early this season. He lives up in the top a third of their batting order and will get at least 5 at-bats tonight. I'm counting on at least 2 of them to be productive ones.
Okay, Matty, who do you like?
So I'm going against a pitcher that's been dramatically overachieving this year. Marco Gonzalez has an ERA in the low 3s, but he's striking out 5 batters per 9 innings, and the ERA just isn't going to hold up. So the Blue Jays on the other side, I like the whole team, but Vlad Guerrero Jr. in particular, I know the Jays have not been great lately, but Vlad is still one of the best hitters in baseball, and he's under 5K for a matchup against a mediocre pitcher with the platoon advantage. It's a bit of a park downgrade going into Seattle, but I still really like the spot for everyone on Toronto, and I don't think too many people are playing Vlad either. There's a lot of cheaper guys actually at the first base position that you can play, so I really like Vlad. I don't think too many people will be on him.
What about an outfielder, Matty, over $4,000? You feel like there's someone there that a lot of people won't be on, a little sneaky play?
Yeah, this is a good way to lead into it because this is a very sneaky team and it's going directly against a pitcher that Paul already talked about. I do think Tony Gonsolin is good, but I don't think he's nearly as good as his 1.5 ERA would suggest. This is a guy who walked over 5 batters per 9 innings last year. And yes, he's been a lot better this year, but I don't fully buy it. So Seiya Suzuki is certainly someone that no one's playing tonight. He's $5,200. And I think that goes for everyone on the Cubs, really. Like, this is a pretty good leverage stack. But I don't know, yesterday the Royals did pretty well against Christian Javier. So I'm just going to ride the momentum of that and just pick another totally off-the-board stack against a chalk pitcher. I think there's a lot of upside because I think Gonsolin is overperforming this year.
All right, Paul, who do you got?
Look, there's a lot of chalky options in the outfield. Trout, Judge, Ohtani, Acuna. a lot of them are going to have large ownership, but I'm going to go about $1,000 cheaper and pick a guy who should be in among them, and that's Mookie Betts in the heart of the Dodgers' formidable lineup. Saving a fair chunk of cash, he's only going to cost $5,000, counting on him to be as productive as any of those other options. And then $100 cheaper than that, Luis Robert, 4 multi-hit games in his last 8 starts, and faces Bo Brisk, who's been roughed up in each of his last 3 starts. So there's 2 favorable options below the heavyweights.
All righty, guys, and let's bring it home here with best value play. Who are you looking at, Paul?
Well, let me just do a commercial here for what's going to happen in Seattle tonight. If you get the chance to tune in, the Jays and Mariners game, it's going to be more like a home game for Toronto. It's a very festive atmosphere, and I really enjoy watching the crowd in this one. And one of the guys they'll be cheering on is Matt Chapman to be a key player coming off a very nice series against his former team in Oakland. 5 hits in his last 2 days. He stands a very good chance of extending that success, facing lefty Marco Gonzalez, who has already been panned on today's show.
Matty?
And then Gavin Sheets, Gavin Sheets logs reveal a streaky player this season. He's alternated with several cold stretches and hot streaks. He's in the middle of a hot one right now. The White Sox outfielder is worth a play at $2,900. So there's a cheapie for you.
Matty, who's your value?
Well, Paul and I agree on Matt Chapman for sure, but I'll go against the chalkiest pitcher on the slate. I don't think I would play a full Tigers stack against Dylan Cease, but Riley Green batting at the top of the lineup, $2,700. He's been really good in the majors, has a pretty good prospect pedigree. And Cease is also someone that you can run on. And specifically since Sebi Zavala has been the catcher with Yasmani Grandal being injured, the White Sox have been an easier team to run on this season, especially when Dylan Cease is when Cease is on the mound. So Green, I think, could steal a base here. He's a good hitter anyway, and he's really cheap. And then you also get the leverage element out of him too. So I think playing some cheaper Tigers makes sense, but Green's my favorite guy there.
All right, guys, tremendous work. We got one last break to go. We're going to talk some best bets at Wimbledon with Jeff Pratt right after this. All right, what you're looking at on your screen, we've got the men's semifinal bracket here for Wimbledon. You got Djokovic, you got Norrie, but on the other side, here we go. Jeff Pratt, this is what I'm excited about. Kyrgios and Nadal, and I know Nadal, there's some reports that he's injured. Actually, we know that he's injured. Some reports, not really quite sure if he's going to be able to play or not. I think he's going to battle through. But you remember the last few times these dudes played? Like, it got a little heated, did it not? At Wimbledon.
Yeah, no, these guys don't like each other at all. So I'm really hoping that Nadal can make it through this match. Obviously, we found out that he has a 7-millimeter tear in his abdomen, which is not ideal because he's already dealing with that chronic foot injury. So he almost had to retire mid-match in the quarterfinals, but he was able to gut it out. I don't know. We'll see for this one, but I'm really excited, Emerson. All
right, cool. I want to dive into the odds with that one in just a second, because first I want to start with tomorrow morning. I want to start with Djokovic and Norrie. So what's a bet that you like in that one?
Yeah, I think that there's a real strong possibility that this one is done in straight sets. I know that Djokovic has been taken to 5 a couple times so far in this tournament, but I'd be shocked if Norrie puts up a fight here. I understand that Jannik Sinner really took Djokovic the distance, but when Novak locks in, he's pretty much unbeatable on grass. You can bet on Djokovic to go under his game total at 19. I think it's plus money on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. So if you believe he's going to win in straight sets, there's your odds right there. He could go to tiebreaks twice and still stay under that total of 19. I also think that there's a money line and total games combined prop last time I checked, where you can take Djokovic to win and that match prop to go under 30.5 total games at plus money. If it's not available anymore, I think going under 30.5 games is still a good bet. If you think Djokovic is going to drop one set to Norrie, I think that you can bet on the exact set score at 3-1 for Novak at plus 320 right now. So there are a bunch of props I like. The bottom line is Djokovic is going to win this going away.
All right, I want to get to the one that, in my opinion, is going to be must-see TV. We saw how Nadal outlasted Taylor Fritz in that epic fifth set. What's the best bet in this one against Kyrgios? Like, do you think Nadal, with this injury now, can actually go 5 sets again, like plus 240 on the DK Sportsbook if they do?
I seriously doubt this match is going 5 sets. Neither of these guys want it to. Kyrgios plays ridiculously fast. He whips through his service games. He tries to hit crazy shots. He's just really attempting to avoid long rallies. He's already been taken to 5 sets twice so far in this tournament. You know he'll be eager to try to get out of this one early. And then, as we talked about already, Nadal is really banged up. He'll want this one to get over with quickly as well. And in terms of bets on this one, I'm genuinely torn right now. As I said, Nadal has that 7mm tear in his abdomen. He's been pretty non-committal on if he's actually going to be ready to play in this match. I think that's just a little bit of mind games. He's going to be ready. At least he's going to give it a go against Kyrgios. The question is, can he make it through the entire match? And if he does, I think he's going to win this one. I think you have an opportunity to take him straight up at plus money as an underdog right now. He has too many tools for Kyrgios. We've seen it throughout the years in their matches. If Nadal just presents any type of adversity for Kyrgios, he's just going to torpedo himself mentally. He's done it time and time again. Obviously, this is the farthest that Kyrgios has made it in a Grand Slam, so it's impressive. But at the end of the day, it's still Nick Kyrgios. He's pretty predictable in terms of how he's going to react when things get tough for him. Okay. So, yeah, I think Nadal plus money as an underdog, just straight up. I also like under 41.5 total games because this one should wrap up in 4 or less sets.
Kyrgios, the first unseeded Wimbledon semifinalist since 2008, so he's been impressive so far. Last one for you here. Who's coming out on top in the final on Sunday? Joker minus 400 to win it. Kyrgios sits at plus 400 with Nadal at plus 1,000 after the injury news came out. So I don't know. Do you want to put in a finals bet right now to kind of maximize some value?
Sure, you can put in a finals bet on honestly either one of those guys in the other semifinal. The ship has sailed to bet on Djokovic at this point. At minus 400, you're just not getting nearly enough value there. But I do think there is value in taking both Nadal at plus 1,000 and Kyrgios at plus 400 to beat him. We know that Rafa has already beaten Djokovic many Grand Slams. He's beaten him in a Grand Slam so far this season. And yes, it was on clay at the French Open where he's just historically dominant, but it still counts. And then Kyrgios is sneakily 2-0 in career head-to-head matches against Djokovic. So whoever wins that semifinal will have a great chance against Novak.
All right, Jeff. Always great catching up with you and talking to you, dude. That's all the time we have. That is the end of this show that we call The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. Madden will kick off here at high noon, and then the slate later this afternoon, early evening, 5 o'clock Eastern Time. So tune in for that. And the show's back tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll see you then.